Father Becker, Reverend Fathers, honored guests, the folks back home, and my brothers. Today, I want to share my priest hero, Father Jim Frederick, and how he has influenced my vocation and my life. I should say it began on a bright June day in South Dakota in the countryside. We were shooting down the county highway doing 65, 70 miles an hour, and it was day 2 or 3 of my summer assignment in 2015. And I wanted to make a little small talk with Father Jim, so I'm just driving, and he's in shotgun, and I turned to him and say, so Father, you like movies? No, can't really say that I do. Never really saw the point in them. Yeah, so it was, a good start to the summer. Father Jim was actually not born and raised in South Dakota, but we got the privilege to get his vocation nevertheless. Instead, Father Jim grew up in a state that is lowly and drought-stricken, Iowa, I'm sorry to say, in northwestern Iowa, and he actually was studying for their diocese in Sioux City, but unfortunately he was asked to leave after 2 years of seminary formation, even after spending some time in Rome. He was asked to leave because he was found to be too quiet and not socially fluent enough. However, it was kind of to our gain that he found some work in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and while going to daily mass there at the cathedral, he got to know Bishop Paul Dudley, and Bishop Paul Dudley saw the potential in Father Jim and said yes to his considering the vocation for the Diocese of Sioux Falls. So Father Jim was ordained in the early 1990s, and he spent a large part of his ministry in the hospitals in Sioux Falls, but he soon found his way to Woonsocket, South Dakota, and that's where I met up with him. Father Jim is 6'2", a beanpole with big glasses and a buzz cut and hands and a face familiar with the Dakota wind and sun. But I think his physical features match up perfectly with his assignment, because his assignment covers 3 counties and 65 miles between Artesian, South Dakota, population 138, all the way to Duncan, South Dakota, that doesn't even have a population because it's a church in a cornfield. And 2 towns in between that number less than 1,000. And it was to this that I was assigned. During that summer, we put on 5,000 miles on Father Jim's car, and I found 3 specific qualities that make Father Jim my priest hero. No movies were watched. The first quality was humility. There's nothing fancy about Father Jim. There was no butter in the house. He never used the AC in his car, and he only ate squash by the Tupperware full. Very quiet, humble guy. But I'll tell you what, we knocked on more doors in the communities of the central South Dakota than I can recount. Father Jim, I know, has gone through tremendous growth. To go from the young man who was asked to leave from Sioux City to the man brave enough to lead me to these rural homes, knock on their door and ask them if they wanted to consider coming back to church. We knocked on the doors of the homebound, the elderly, normal families, and inactive Catholics. One guy hid from us in the shed as we drove up onto the property. Another woman drew back the curtains, promptly closed them, and bolted the door. And we were both personally introduced to Samson, Woonsocket's only pit bull. Through all of this, we did have good experiences, though, too. Whether it was working with a woman who felt rejected by the church because she got remarried, or a man who simply had disagreements with parish policy. Nevertheless, I found that it takes courage for a humble man to speak and work with a humble flock. The second quality I found within Father Jim was his elemental identity in the priesthood. I think this can only be summed up the time that Father Jim shared with me his own personal vocation story, part of which I've just shared with you, and his final words to Bishop Dudley before he passed away here in Minnesota. As luck would have it, Father Jim found some business up here in the Twin Cities that he needed to attend to, and he heard that Bishop Dudley was soon to pass away. So he, amidst all the important people coming in and out of the waiting rooms, Father Jim was able to come in and personally thank Bishop Dudley. And his words to him were, "Bishop, thank you for my priesthood. Thank you. Know that I am a happy priest." And in that moment, I'm just never going to forget that look on his face, that look of pure generosity, genuineness, and wholesomeness, that know that I am a happy priest. After that, he added, "I don't know who I would be were it not for my priesthood." The third quality is dedication. Like I've already said, Father covers 4 parishes across 3 counties, including 2 nursing homes and 6 cemeteries, and he's been on the assignment for 10 years. Father Jim even occasionally sleeps in the other major town, Washington Springs, that also has a rectory, just to make sure that they have a priest in town. But I think what speaks most to Father Jim's spirit of dedication is on the day that I think had to be one of his hardest days in the priesthood. That day, suddenly in late July, one of the few weeks before I was about to leave, our community lost a young boy to an ATV accident. What I simply saw there was a priest do the duty for which he was ordained. I saw a man, a priest, know the family as shepherd. I saw a priest who grieved with the family, and I saw a priest who bravely walked forward with that family. Simply put, I saw another Christ. So my brothers, relationship, identity, mission. These are all the qualities I found within Father Jim. Humility in his relationship. Father Jim is only able to be so humble because he knows humility itself, Jesus Christ. Father Jim knows who he is and his identity as a priest because he knows the high priest. And finally, Father Jim is able to continue the God-given mission with dedication because he knows he who carried his cross. It is my prayer that whether I'm in a small town of 100 or a sprawling metropolis of 1,000, it is my hope and prayer that I too possess these qualities of humility, of identity, and dedication to my priestly role. That for wherever I may be, my prayer might be it done unto me according to thy word, and the word on my lips be, praise be Jesus Christ.